Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Hack the Gibson. Going to Thailand.
Yeah,
that's
for the
step
first
one.
time ever.
Recommendations?
You know, there's a lot of great stuff to do.
I'm excited.
Great food, great beaches.
Have you been? They just outlawed street food in Bangkok.
You don't want to
One
eat
of
the street food anyway.
It's supposed to be the best street food globally.
I mean, I think it's the best while you're eating it. It's not the best 6
After.
to 12 hours afterwards.
Have you been?
No.
You should jump on this
I've
trip.
got a 5-year-old. We're going to Santa Fe. We're going to Santa Fe for Memorial Day. That's about as exciting as it gets.
My name's Justin. I've been an entrepreneur here in Silicon Valley for the past 12 years, working on startups. Worked on a lot of ones. The one that kind of people know about is called Twitch, which is a platform for people to watch other people play video games. And then most recently, I've been at Y Combinator, investing in amazing startups.
I have a Hunter Walk. I have a seed fund called Homebrew. Before that, spent about 12 years doing various product management roles. Ran product at YouTube for a long time, trying to figure out how to make sure that we make money, grow, and be legal.
So what's the one investment that ties us all together right now? This is your brother's company.
Oh, is it?
Cruise, yeah. Everybody
Oh,
here
right.
was a
There we
fortunate
go.
investor.
Boom.
Boom.
Good job. Nice job, everybody. My brother started a company called Cruise with my former Justin TV co-founder, Kyle.
What did it do? Tell everyone what it did.
Self-driving car company. It's pretty amazing.
Let's talk a little bit about stuff that's getting interesting for both you guys right now. You just left YC. You know, there's a lot of talk
Can
out
you ever
there.
really leave?
No, it's always part of you.
What can you say about what you're up to now?
Nothing. All right, I'm starting a new company.
What space
I'm
can you
starting
say?
a new company
Yeah.
in the legal space.
Okay, excited. When are you going to have something to share with people about it?
I don't know. So we're actively hiring amazing engineers and forward-thinking lawyers. So send me a message on Twitter.
Okay.
At Justin Khan. Yeah.
All right.
Or actually not Twitter because I don't check that. Send me a message on Facebook.
What are you interested in right now, man? What are some of the spaces that interest you?
So Homebrew basically gets excited about how is technology bringing the benefits to not just like the largest companies and wealthiest consumers, but to more mainstream folks. So we've got an interesting agriculture company out of New York called Bowery that is doing indoor farming, uses like 95% less water. 100%
Is it like for
yield.
urban big city
Yeah, so
farms,
they've
like
got-
post-apocalypse, we're going to live off
It's not
of Bowery
post-apocalypse.
farms?
It's the notion that like a lot more growing is going to happen indoors and locally due to the fact that now you can use software to control the entire agriculture process, as well as the idea that like water is dramatically underpriced right now,
Definitely true.
given sort of its scarcity.
Did you just invest in it?
It's one of those things where we invested in 2015, but they just announced.
Oh, yeah. Knock
Daniel
on.
was really super interested in that space. You should, if there's any room to invest, I'm sure.
There's a lot of interesting good stuff. We also, because we talked a little bit about Cruise before, so another investment that we did a while ago, but just announced because they did their A with Andreessen Horowitz, a company called Shield in San Diego that sells autonomous robotics into the public sector, starting with the DoD, Homeland Security, so on and so forth. They're like, you know, some of these companies are just like ridiculously interesting. This one, earlier this year, they hired a COO. COO is a retired head of the Navy SEALs and Navy Special Forces.
How under
Admiral Losi. Yeah, he turned down a role in the administration to sort of join this company. So it's like, you know, we normally like bounce around.
Yeah.
They're located down in San Diego. You know, you normally bounce around. You're like, oh, I wonder if I can get the person who, you know, used to be doing operations at Google or who that, you know, hey, Airbnb had a great ops team. Maybe we can hire a director there to be COO. And they're like, oh yeah, we just hired the guy that ran Navy SEALs.
So I think Stephen Harper, the ex-PM of Canada, just joined 8VC, I think, as an advisor. When we think,
might be worth it.
when we think, you think autonomous, right? You see, we're here in San Francisco. You see the cars with like the cameras, rotating cameras all the time, doing the mapping, the lidar camera. I wish I could call it what it is. Yeah. When do you think that's going to be a thing? And San Francisco versus rest of the world.
What do you mean? Is it going to be a thing?
When are you actually going to see when you talk about autonomous cars? What do people mean by autonomous cars? And when do you think we're going to see fully driverless? You're sitting back, you're not paying attention. Cars on the road.
Keeps releasing all these videos of it working. So
we're there.
I mean, I think we're pretty close to something that.
Would you feel comfortable sitting in a Cruise car right now going from here to Menlo Park without a driver in the car with you?
what I feel.
I think you need a driver.
I mean,
there's a driver
there's a
there.
law
It's
right
still,
now,
it's
right?
legally.
State of the art is there's a driver there, and the
Correct.
driver only intervenes when necessary. You're not
exactly.
yet like in the back seat, no driver in the front.
I'd be comfortable with that.
I would be comfortable with
The thing that's weird, like, so I think what's actually going to be the bigger issue to solve isn't so much the technology, but it's sort of what level of safety are we comfortable with? Like, what is it? I forget the number, but there's like a ridiculous number of automobile deaths this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the question is, do autonomous vehicles need to be like just one death better than that?
Yeah.
Or do we say, oh wait, if there's ever an example of it failing,
They need to be less safe. I mean, I'm not the safety director, but they should be less safe.
Well, you need to
because
move
they're gonna
quickly.
Save time and traffic, and time is
There's trade-off, right?
Yeah, it's a trade-off.
Well, but essentially the two things that need to happen is we need to realize that there's going to be benefit to society before their, perfect safety record.
Yeah.
And second, that once we make the transition, we need to make the transition quickly because cars talking to cars, like the higher the density of autonomous vehicles, the safer we're actually going to be because then the cars talk to the cars and the grid works.
There's a car talking to car protocol yet, though.
No, but what you can do with all that data is the cars do get connected and talking not just to each other,
I think that might
but to
be
the
where,
garages.
when you talk about where is there room for regulatory,
Right.
I think standardizing some of that
That would be a good-
car-to-car conversation to me is much more interesting because that's where you're actually going to get, forget are we going to sort of, did Justin grab the wheel quickly enough to resume control of the car? It's the two cars deciding and running their own algorithm to decide like, okay, in that event, like who stops and who goes, right?
Well, that's also the question, the ethical question as well, right?
The trolley problem.
Exactly. You're gonna sway. You're gonna.
Mercedes has said that they're
anyone-
protecting the occupant, not the passengers.
That's how I want to buy.
So they're always
That's why you roll in.
They're always going to hit
roll
the fat
my
man, right? Because
G-Wagon,
it's like the fat man and the kids or whatever. It's like,
Wait, tell the story of the fat man and the kids.
I thought that's a classic trolley problem. Right? For some reason, they pick on fat people. There's a fat person like on the track, and like you either kill the fat person or like you swerve off the track and you might kill some of the kids.
But
Would
why
you
is
not
he
condone
fat? It's
body
not
shaming?
actually.
It's irrelevant. But like when people tell it, they're like,
The
I don't know. They
story
somehow
because
put
he
some,
can move.
they bring some
not
like
getting
moral.
I would use real. I would say Sonny's on the track, and then there's some kids. Should I run over Sonny or?
Look, I think
kill
what we
the
have to do.
kids?
It depends. Do the kids
I'd
have
hit Sonny
combined?
for the record.
Do the
Thank you.
kids have
That's
combined more
would
Twitter
hit me.
followers than Sonny? We need. It's going to clout. It's a clout algorithm.
Like, what if the latency is too high to like?
If
actually
Sonny doesn't have a lot of clout,
Twitter's API
Twitter
is
followers.
Not compared to you guys.
Let the trolley barrel into
Awesome,
it.
awesome
That's our
to say.
hedge. Why do you think we do social media? It's because we don't want the trolley to hit us.
We want to be valued in this new
God.
techno-libertarian state.
The
And we're going to be our entire self-worth is going to be based on how much social media influence we have.
so talking of
What a
which,
great segue.
you both do a shit ton of making your lives public, right? Whether it's on Snapchat, Instagram story, blog posts, tweeting, etc. How helpful do you think that's been to you to attract talent to your companies while you were at YC? And then for you, man, for Dealflow now, how helpful are you finding that?
So I make a lot of Snapchat videos about how to do stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I like making Snapchat.
You give
videos.
people good gym routines, right?
Exactly. I tell them
Yeah.
we're going to work out routines. Someone
Yeah.
actually asked me the other day. I was in New York and I gave a talk at the space, and someone was like, "What's your bicep workout routine?" I was like,
Fatness is the first step to greatness.
No, I like
Surprisingly, no one's ever asked me that.
yeah. So they asked me that, and I don't know
Look, as
where
he's
that
doing
was
that, he's
Oh,
flexing
God.
a little bit.
going.
Yeah,
I went to the gym this morning. I feel great. That's why I was
man.
so late.
We should have done some
I'm-
push-ups before we got on camera.
I know. So, anywaes,
Having the
basically, it's social media.
Yeah.
Is it useful? I think so. Actually, I've gotten quite a few, hires off of social media stuff. So, it's worth something.
It's great for top of funnel for people to be able to approach you. It makes you empathetic, makes you approachable. How much of it? How much time are you spending a day doing that right now? If you had to say.
Like 2 minutes.
Don't people always overestimate the amount of time it takes to do this stuff?
Yeah,
People are like, you must be on Twitter 8 hours a day. I'm like, I think I'm probably on Twitter less than half an hour a day.
Yeah, I stopped using Twitter. I stopped using Facebook, and I just used Snapchat just to create videos. And I've been doing less and less because I've been heads down on this new company. So I've probably been creating like a couple minutes of snaps a day.
So Snap v Instagram stories. Are you Instagram?
I think
No, I don't. I'm not a.
not
I'm more a text. I'm more a text.
The
than-
text
than
content
a
is
video
You
kind of
Snap.
guy.
Well,
Yeah, but
I mean,
it's
your
not
blog
meant-
posts are more are obviously.
Yeah,
on
so
media
I
and stuff.
started. I mean, I've always enjoyed writing. At some point, I thought that maybe I'd stay down that path for a living, but I decided to do this tech stuff instead. For me,
Thank God.
exactly. For me, it's a chance to sort of express myself in a way. I'm an introvert, so it's great to be able to do do something quietly by myself that then like can reach people without having to go and shake 1,000 hands.
Yeah.
To your point about like, so benefit, I'll tell you, the only time that I actually ever thought about that deliberately when I was at YouTube, and I was trying to hire PMs, because I inherited a small team, I shrunk it down, and then I grew it up to like 40 PMs, right? And I wasn't just trying to, sort of convince people from Google to move over to YouTube or hire somebody who was like trying to decide between Twitter and YouTube. I was trying to like get folks that were applying to YC to say, oh, hey, maybe like working at YouTube for 2 to 3 years will make me a better entrepreneur or something, or like let me go and get some experience. And I tell you what, in those cases, like I needed to feel tangible to the people I was talking to, because I needed to like, they needed to know that like, oh, I could learn something working with this guy, and after 2 or 3 years, like he'll help me then go like launch my company, talk to the right people. And so for me, like I was like, look, I think any exec at a large company who does any hiring needs a public-facing persona if you want the best talent to make a decision, hey, maybe that's somebody that I can learn from.
So I think that now when you walk into a meeting, given how public a lot of people are with their lives, right? You should know a little bit about who you're going to meet with before you go to meet with them, especially as an
stalking them on Insta stories.
Basically, or yeah, exactly. Just what have I been doing today at the gym, etc. Just be watching at all times. The idea of knowing what someone's if you come to an investor meeting, when I was an entrepreneur and I was raising, you should know who those people are. You should know what they've invested in, etc. But today, given that everyone's so public with what they're doing, you guys are prime examples of that. Do you find that people are generally pretty well equipped at knowing who you are, knowing what you guys are into before they meet with you?
I always assume that nobody knows shit about me.
Exactly.
Like, no one reads that stuff.
All
217,000 people never read it.
Read all my blog posts, or you looked at my social media.
And people always like, and if they do, they know part. It's like they know part, but they may not know the most recent, or they may not know this. So I think it's more important when you see somebody to kind of use those first interactions to actually like be present and get a sense of where they are now, and like what are we going to talk about, like that type of thing, more than to sort of try to do the icebreaker of, I read that tweet you sent a week ago, and man, it was great. I'm like,
that works for POTUS, not for you.
Yeah.
You just got to make a human connection with the other person and not assume that they've scanned your social media.
I think touch is really important.
Yeah, touch. I think touch is really
Definitely
important.
Physical touch.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the flood, so you and I started our funds around at the same time, about 4 or 5. Touch me again. No, don't touch me again. 4 or 5 years ago. Okay. Now you're seeing the rise of micro VCs no longer a rarity, right? The sub $50 million fund, the sub $100 million fund. Do you think that, given how crowded seed has become, you've been playing in that same space as like a super angel yourself, right? As in between your YC time and starting your new company, do you feel that that area of the barbell is so frothy, so busy now, right? But on the other end, you've still got established Sand Hill. Do you think that the blogging and all that kind of stuff is something that helps differentiate amongst the other seed funds out there? Do you think everybody's just doing a lot of that?
I think any investor should be able to articulate why they're valuable on your cap table, and also what type of founder is a good. They can be a good partner to, and then what type of founders might not be the right partner to. So like I think the best thing about maintaining a relatively small fund size is you don't have to be all things to all people.
Right.
And so for us, for my partner Sach and I, we make 7, 8, 9, 10 investments a year. We're sort of playing a lead or co-lead in a seed round, and so it's. I don't think about like social presence as a differentiator. I just think of it as, helping folks learn about who you are before you interact with each other, and also getting out of, let's call it like getting out of the friend zone.
Yeah.
If you're going to put a little bit of money into the back end of a lot of deals, it's fine to be thought of as like, oh, just a generally nice guy.
Yeah.
I've been around enough, so on and so forth. Like I could go, put in money into the back end of a bunch of deals, and that would be a strategy, but it's not the strategy we use. So I need to somehow figure out amongst which subset of entrepreneurs am I going to be like their first, second, or third choice, so that I actually get to talk to them, about their company, even before their fundraising, as opposed to being the 9th, 10th, 11th choice for them.
We deal with like probably 1,000 investors at YC, right? And my impression of Home Group, like without any, just not because we haven't really sat down and talked about your strategy or anything, is like they make $1 million investments, kind of help you from the seed to get to the A and then step back. Right? Is that accurate or not?
Yes, except we actually stay around to the B a little bit more.
Okay.
Because what we think is that's actually another important difference, that a lot of folks sort of say like, okay, great, now we're going to hand you off. And like
no longer my problem,
the transition to an A investor can kind of be a little bit weird. All of a sudden you have this person who like steps in, sits. So we like to balance that out and then step back at the B. It's a little bit more work for us, but we think it benefits the entrepreneur. So but like directionally, like that's what we do. And
you know where you fit. You know how you're complementary with other investors. You know where you're complementary with some entrepreneurs and not with others. For example.
So some folks are like, oh, I don't really like. I just want the seed guy to help me, and then like get out of my hair. We're like, we're probably not the right one for you. But now, the most important thing for us isn't like who read my tweet or any one logo of a company we invest in. It's what the founders that we've backed so far tell other founders.
That's what I was going to say.
Building that track record of
they have this.
Words.
They have people. Their founders say that, right? And that's why, like, I even know, right? I think
like, there's no other reason. Like, I mean, like, we know each other because we've both been around the valley a long time. But like, I'm pleased and flattered that like he has that much, recognition for what we're trying to do. Being that, 4 years in, you don't really know much. You know if you suck. If you're bad at this, you have 7 to 10 years to do that, right? With your fund return. Generally,
maybe as an investor, but like I think you as the VC know, right? The LPs maybe don't know, but the VCs know.
The knock-on effect's a little later.
I think the important thing is that I think they've been very consistent on their strategy, and so that comes across in the messaging that the founders themselves say about Homebrew, right? And I think very few people actually accomplish that in terms of differentiating their capital at all, because at the end of the day, most of it is just capital, right?
Well, that's the thing. So interchangeable money's a commodity, et cetera.
Yeah.
When you see the larger funds coming downstream now, like the big bulge brackets having their active seed practices, and Andreessen used to be famous for its like 50K, 100K seed checks, and then the negative optionality of not being there at the follow-on was very real. But now you see NEA, Norwest, Sequoia, they've been active for a while as seed investors. They all have their scout program where they're effectively have angels that are affiliated with the parent fund, or they have seed checks that are out of the institution.
I think the scout programs are like, they're not helping you. They're trying to, it's marketing, right? They're trying to create deal flow for themselves.
Right. But you think that firm would be getting in off of the back of the firm name or off the back of the scout's personal reputation as an angel? It's probably one and the same, right?
Well, I think it's just that scouts, I mean, what happens for scouts is like you have all these people in Silicon Valley who don't have any money, but talk to founders all the time and would like to participate. And so it's more that they're the people that other founders are going to when they're like, oh, how do I even raise an angel round? Or how do I'm thinking about starting a company? So they're just like there, right? It's like a crowdsourcing your angel investment.
Well, they have it now. They actually have formal funds that AngelList puts money into, and those guys go find their own scouts. It's like a derivative kind of model.
Everybody wants to
when everybody's a scout, when everybody's an investor, who's going to start the company?
Exactly. There's too many investors.
Where are you guys spending more time outside of Silicon Valley right now? Obviously, you're heads down building here in the Mission right now. You're are you still investing actually, by the way?
No, I'm going to say there's too many investors. I want to stop investing. I said
that's how you differentiate yourself as an investor. You
exactly. I'm going to stop investing. I think there's too many investors. There's too many seed stage investors. Unless you're spending, I realize, I think I've been fortunate to angel invest into a bull market and be in a good position where I can just throw a lot of like checks into my friends. And it turns out, hey, it's a great economy. Tech innovation is taking over all these different industries. So I've made a lot of money. Like unless you're like spending a lot of time to like doing analysis, I actually think it's very hard to, like, do I think I'm a good investor? I think I'm like an okay investor. But I could be a good investor, like a technology investor, if I spend a lot more time working on that. Right. But that's not really what I want to do. I just want to start companies. So I'm just going to start my own company. I'm going to not invest in anything unless it's my personal friend. So I'll have FOMO if they're successful, and I might like just die. Or I'm willing to invest at least hundreds of thousands of my own money in it. Then that's my bar. If I'm not, because then there's no point in just investing like, $50,000 in somebody's company just because I think they're, it's not gonna. I don't think that's a good strategy to just spray and pray tons of companies.
What about geography?
And it takes a lot of time. I want to. What I realize is my most valuable thing to invest is my time. Yep. So I want to invest. I want to stop doing everything except working my own companies. I also think that's a better way to build wealth, to be honest.
It's doubling down on doing your own thing.
And it also matches what I like to do personally.
What's geography-wise is what I was getting to. So LA, New York.
New York
spent a lot of time.
I mean, for the New York, we went in 4 years ago and we started Homebrew and had the hypothesis that New York would be an interesting second geography for us.
You're from there, right?
I'm from there. Satya and I both have relationships there from the Google, Twitter, YouTube days. So as well as his previous venture experience. But most importantly, The companies we invest in New York tend to be built atop like New York's indigenous industries. So they're companies that benefit from being in New York versus companies that just happen to be in New York.
Talk about what
Bond Street in financial services, Skim in media, Primary in fashion and commerce, Managed by Q in sort of B2B services. And I think about like maybe a quarter of the first fund's investments are there. Probably a little bit less in the second fund so far, but we're only midway through that.
What about LA? Obviously,
yeah. So LA will end up being a little bit more opportunistic. We've got like probably 3 investments in Southern California. For all 9 years I was at Google, I had teams down there, so I went down there at least once a month. LA is an interesting area. A lot of the stuff that's indigenous to LA is just not thematically interesting for us. So we don't do a lot of gaming, VR, not some of the broader commerce stuff.
What about the celebrity like e-commerce kind of things around these MCNs that emerged?
Which celebrities are you going to invest in?
We invest in pre-celebrity.
Pre-celebrity.
I
Get in now.
Find them when they're really young, and then I just bet on them.
All right.
And we turn them into teen stars, and then.
You're a manager / investor now.
Manager. Yeah. Sometimes you got to decide what your playbook is and who you are and what gives you energy versus doesn't. Growing up, through YouTube and all this type of stuff, like my favorite type of celebrity are kind of the authentic personalities that are outside the mainstream, but have found and built really interesting, committed audiences through some of these platforms.
Isn't that what every?
So it's YouTube celebrities.
That's what I was going to say. That's what every YouTube celebrity was, right? Michelle Phan, et cetera, with the makeup.
Yeah, but like there's more and more. Like it's not just YouTube. Like all these spaces have sort of like these dark networks until the mainstream all of a sudden discovers that like, oh my goodness, there's people making money on Twitch. Oh my goodness, there's all these YouTube celebrities. But like. Anyone who was in and around these environments, like you saw it, years in advance, and you got to see these people when they started out with very, very small followings. Like I remember, besides Justin live streaming his life, when Justine got involved and then moved over to YouTube and stuff. Like I got to see some of these people, go from having figuring out who they were and figuring out who they were, in front of their audience. And like I enjoy that much more than I enjoy hanging out in a studio lot. Any platform that doesn't actively support direct monetization, is doing a disservice and ultimately vulnerable, right? So even the Instagrams of the world where there's commerce occurring around it, I think it's a weakness that they don't figure out how to allow people to move through their own ad systems, their own sponsored content. Because it gives you much more signals around quality. It allows you as a platform to have incentives that are aligned with your creators. And that's one of the things that we did so quickly at YouTube was making sure it wasn't just the largest music labels that could monetize their content, but anybody who had an audience. I worked on AdSense before YouTube, so I got to see like, really, you didn't have to just be CNN to deserve advertising dollars.
The changing tack a little bit, we talked about some of the studios, for example, right? Like they're in the broader category of strategic investors that we've been seeing coming to YC Demo Day. There's a ton of strategic investors there. You see them on cap tables every which way to Sunday now. They used to be the people that would buy your companies. They used to be the people, the corp dev guys you'd have exits from your fund to. Now with every major brand that we know probably has an in-house innovation team, has maybe an in-house venture fund, or has external with their LPs and funds, et cetera, as ways to learn. How have you guys interacted with strategic investors, and where do you think
strategics have been great. So increasingly, whether it's as part of a ventures arm or off the balance sheet, large traditional companies are realizing that they have a blind spot if they're not understanding how technology is evolving or challenging their existing business model. And so we see them coming in much earlier with clean term sheets and looking to figure out how they can help, right? So Skim had their B round led by Fox with New York Times in support, because at that they're like, we're kicking butt. Like, we don't need another VC around the table to like tell us VC tropes. Like, we're ready to learn a little bit with the strategic. Like Staples did the Managed by Q C round because they wanted to sell Managed by Q into their SMB market. Like these are all great things.
How often does the customer relationship have to accompany an investment at the same time?
So we think that basically our rule of thumb is that if it's like pre-B round and it's a small check back of the round, don't assume that there's going to be any real mutual business value. Just have a clean term. But if they want to play a meaningful role, B or beyond, you've got to have some sort of business services agreement, like clean term sheet, but mutual incentive to succeed. Otherwise, like that capital's not worth as much. But you're going to see, I think, even from an acquisition standpoint. I mean, you're already sort of whether it be GM and Cruise, or more strategic tuck-ins, like. This is going to provide a great and durable outlet for startups, next decade or so at least, in terms of exits, not just strategic investments.
From your time at YC, from your time as an entrepreneur raising as well, did you ever have interaction with strategic VCs, corporate VCs?
Well, I think that usually it's pretty, when they're going through YC and then raising their seed round, it's a little too early.
Yeah.
I think a lot of I usually would tell companies at the early stages to stay away from those investors because their goals are not all their goal is not purely to see your company succeed, right? Their goal is
elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, for example, what's a little probably closer to home is these accelerators that every company has, every Coca-Cola accelerator,
right? Campbell's
Disney
Soup,
accelerator, whatever.
Kellogg, yeah.
And the fact is, those accelerators aren't run to generate high enterprise value independent companies. They're either run to solve a problem internally, to build things that are solutions to someone's problem internally, right? Or they're run to make them, kind of from brand marketing perspective, I guess, to Silicon Valley to
look
talent.
Innovative.
And then, I mean, maybe there is a component of we want to make money, but I even asked some of these guys, what is your actual, how are you evaluated, right? They're not getting carry on the accelerator that they're running.
Right.
So, and in the early stage, there's a lot of strategic value from partnering, from raising money from someone who is a distribution platform for you when you have figured out your business, right?
Yeah.
So not only, I mean, League of Legends is a great example where Riot Games raised money from Tencent, right?
Yeah.
And they distributed them in China at the same time, and that's not the biggest game in the world.
Yeah.
So this is there's lots of strategic value when you figured out a business that actually works, but I think in the early stages, if you think that these guys are going to come in and help you build an amazing business, that's not, I don't believe that.
The most famous story was that I remember hearing was at one of the Disney Accelerator demo days. They told this story. I think Force Awakens has Sphero as the droid, right? Bob Iger walked into the accelerator after seeing rushes from J.J. Abrams' Force Awakens while they were shooting, and it had a droid, and that was a ball that rolls around. He walks into his accelerator the next day. He sees there's a ball that you can control with your phone, and the next day it gets free Star Wars IP. So I think certain times, going through the Disney Accelerator, for example, a lot of those companies came out with IP.
Yeah.
And there was no weird legal terms attached to it. You went through that program, you give some common equity, you get free Disney IP as a result.
Well, if you have some sort of, I guess, something that's very synergistic with Disney IP, then maybe that's a really good
In that case, too,
case.
to Justin's point, though, that they were atypical in that company was, already sort of like a C-round company. I mean,
it was
late
stage. It was like Series D. It was already
right.
Series
So
D,
they had built some stuff out. They
were
looking to go from, okay, we have a direct-to-consumer model, but how do we learn about some of this licensing? So it's they got what they needed out of it.
It made a lot of sense.
Because they weren't looking for some mentor to come around and go explain customer acquisition to them. They were looking to understand IP and IP licensing, and Disney family of companies was pretty interesting for that.
So we're going to wrap in a minute, but we're going to change that.
Literally wrap?
Well, that's coming on to the next question. So we're going to do 3 quick-fire questions. Last movie you saw?
Devil's Candy.
What is that?
The Devil's Candy.
Devil's Candy. It was a horror film, independent horror film that just got distributed on iTunes.
Besides watching reruns of Justin TV, what's the?
I watched Hell or High Water.
That
was pretty good.
Okay. All right. Greatest rapper ever. Go.
I don't know. I like Eminem.
Okay.
In my mind, I sound like Chuck D.
And you look like?
Not Chuck D.
Beastie.
Chucky.
Yeah. All right. Guilty pleasure. Go. You're in the gym. You're public about it all the time. What's the fattest thing that you've done recently?
I eat a lot too much meat. That's the problem.
Okay.
It's not good for you.
No sweets.
Not really. But the eating too much meat, like animal proteins, shortens your life, man. It's not good for you.
Wow.
So
he looks great for being 112, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Guilty
That's all the
pleasure.
olive oil.
Guilty pleasure. Podcasts at 1.5 speed. A lot of podcasts.
Downloading information.
I'm slowly training myself. I go up, by another.
Point
another
speed.
point.
What do you
speed
listen
every
to?
day.
So on Audible, you're on 1.5, or what's the highest you can go and still pay attention?
Oh, if I can, at 2x, I can understand what they're saying, but none of it sticks.
Last book you read?
The last good book I read, it's called The Great Rebalancing, and actually I've been recommending it to almost everyone.
Great Rebalancing.
The Great Rebalancing by Michael Pettis, I think.
High level, what's it about?
It's basically about global trade and how it's created kind of all the situations across the globe that we see today.
It talks about global trade, so it's like between the deficit.
Yeah, but I like the
China.
kind of the like savings and consumption in every country is controlled by like all the accounts across the globe have to all the trade accounts have to balance, right?
Yeah.
And so like our savings rate in America and like the investments that happen in America are controlled by like what happens in the rest of the globe.
What about you, man? What's the last one?
Radical Candor by Kim Scott out here in the Valley. It's a book on basically people are shitty at giving feedback, but it's an important part of being a leader and part of a good team. So it has a framework for being radically candid.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to hang out. No, you're supposed to stay here.
Oh,
thank you. Goodbye. Thank you guys for being here today. Really appreciate it. Guys, please like, comment, subscribe, and submit questions for the next one.
And we're hiring engineers at my new startup, so you should come join me. And that's all.
That's all you can tell you. All right, take care, guys. Bye.